Hi, it's Mark Owen from Moose, Marketing MPR, the editor of Punchline Magazine. Welcome to Punchline Talks. Today I'm joined by Lance Bradley, the Chief Executive of Gloucester Rugby. Welcome to Punchline Talks, Brad. Lance, even. I don't get the name right.
That's fine. Thanks, Owen. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's a bit hot today, let's be honest. Gloucester Rugby, let's be honest, it's a big business. Let's forget about the playing side at the moment. Let's just talk about the business side. How big a company is it? How many people do you employ? What's the turnover, please? Let's have some stats, if that's possible, please.
Yeah, sure. That's fine, Mark. It's a reasonable sized business. We have around 250 employees, and the turnover is normally somewhere between 16 and 18 million pounds. We're looking to grow that if we can over the next couple of years. Obviously, it's been hit quite hard by COVID, so it might well be a little bit less than that this fiscal year. But yeah, it's a fairly reasonable size organisation, and quite a funny one. You know, most businesses, the objective is to make as much money as you can, and this one it's not quite that. It's to win things on the pitch. But you're right. At the bottom of it all, it does have to be run as a business.
I mean, I've chatted to Stephen Lake, for the Dean of Gloucester University, Gloucester Cathedral. This is really the other cathedral of Gloucester, and it's very interesting how many staff he's got and how he has to run it. And it is, at the end of the day, it has to be seen as a business. So how much money do you think you've lost from COVID? It must have been extremely difficult to keep the ball moving, don't mind the pun.
Yeah, no, it was. It was, we're looking back to just over a year ago when we went into the first lockdown, and we had, at that time we had a salary bill of over £1 million a month. And at one point we had no certainty about where our next income was coming from. So yeah, it's certainly been challenging. Not having fans in for 15 months now is very challenging, not just in terms of the financial aspect of that, although that is severe, millions of pounds of impact there, but particularly in terms of, the Kingston crowd are our 16th man. And, there's been a number of games, particularly at the start of this season, where we lost by an odd score. And you can't help thinking that our 16th man may have helped us over the line. So yeah, it has been a very challenging 12 or 15 months.
What do you think has been the biggest, most challenging part of that?
The uncertainty. I've been through crises in industry before, but normally you're working with, you know what the problem is, you know how long it's going to last, and you know when it's going to come to an end. And of course, with COVID, nobody did. So we were making plans and remaking plans literally every week. We rewrote our budget, I think, 14 times over last summer, as things were changing every week. And that's a challenging basis on which to try to plan a business when you don't have any real fixed points to work on. So that was the worst bit.
Now, you've obviously had to cut some staff along the way. We know the catering is going to change next year. Steve Bussey, you've been there a long time, who I know personally as well, by the way. I used to be in the Air Force with him years ago. It's great.
Right, okay.
And it's one of those things you have to make it. I did meet him, by the way, and he was very good about it, or never said a bad thing about it. Very thankful for the years he had there. So
and we had a great
place there.
Sorry, I missed.
What are you going to put in place? What's the idea?
Yeah, just to back up what you're saying about Steve. Steve did a great job for us for a number of years, and we enjoyed a very good relationship with him.
You have got a dog there, haven't you?
I have got a dog there, and he's just come up and bitten my finger. I've got a 6-month-old puppy, and he's not quite sure why I'm paying attention to the laptop and not to him. So my apologies for that. Do you want me to put him in his cage or something?
No, we're okay. This is more comedy value.
Quiet.
We've had worse on the show, I can tell you.
I'm sure. Can I just break for a minute?
Of course you can. Thanks ever so much for rejoining us. It'd be funny if the dog suddenly was there and you were in the cage.
Yeah, he's smart, but he's not that smart.
Thank goodness for that. So, sorry, we were talking about the catering's changed and
Yeah. So we had as I say, had a great relationship with Steve for many years. But one of the things that the lockdown gave us was time to look at all aspects of what we do throughout the organisation, and some of the changes that we've made have been very visible. We've seen the coaching staff change, we've seen changes to the academy, but we've also made a lot of changes to the commercial side of the business as well. And it's one of the things. Sorry, okay. I'm gonna have to move and go away from the dog if that's okay.
Okay, I'll put it on pause.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we were at the aspects of the business. You had to change it. There were different opportunities.
Yes, and we took the opportunity to look at everything we do at the club, and people will have seen some quite public changes with the changes in the coaches and some of the players and the changes we've made in the academy setup. But we've also done a lot of work on our commercial side and had a look at what we do and what we think we could do better. And we wanted to offer a greater choice to our hospitality customers and in fact all of the fans that come to the ground. So we've looked at our catering, we've looked at our drinks providers, we've looked at the way that we serve in the bars, and we've actually made some quite big changes all the way through. So we've now got Will Carvalho, who's our performance chef who does all the players' food, now responsible for catering throughout the whole organisation. And I think that's quite exciting to have the food in hospitality being prepared by the same guy that prepares the food for the players. So and we've done a tasting session for box holders, and the feedback from what we're going to be able to offer has been very positive. So I think that's a big step forward. What we really want to do, one of the things we've really been focusing on is the whole experience of coming to Kingston, whether that's on a match day or a non-match day or whatever else it might be. And we're trying to make that a really memorable occasion, a really memorable experience. And we think that by bringing that catering in-house, that gives us the chance to do that.
And you said that you're going to change the drinks offering as well. Does that mean there won't be any Carling or Foster's or Heineken? I'm a bit slightly concerned being just a lager man myself.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. No, we've been working with Green King, who are our drinks partner, at making sure that we can offer a more varied offering than has always been the case in the past. So those discussions have gone really well. It's in all of our interests to make sure that works properly. So we'll have a greater choice around the stadium and in the hospitality areas as well. But no, there'll be no shortage of any beer or wine or anything else that people want.
You can see where my heart is, can't you? It does make the games go rather quicker and more enjoyable.
Well, it's a big part of the day, isn't it? Coming and having a couple of beers.
It is indeed. It's nice that we stay in the hospitality sector. I know you personally have a great interest in the food and and the where the food is from. Can you explain about that as well?
Yeah, we've one of the other things that we've decided to do is to embark on a sustainability program to help the club become more sustainable. And that's partly because we think it's the right thing to do. We think it's important to play our part in reducing emissions, but we also think that we have quite a central place in the community, and we think that we can be quite big influencers on this kind of thing. So one of the things that we looked at is where we source all of our products that we use from, especially the food, and where we can to buy that locally. And I think that people from Gloucestershire appreciate food that's sourced locally. If we can say, this is coming from a farm, 5 miles up the road, and a lot of people will know that where that farm is. They'll understand the provenance of that food. They'll know that it's great quality food, and they'll appreciate the fact that we're not bringing food in from all over the country for it. So we're not going to be we're not going to be going mad with it. We are very serious about it. We've appointed a director of sustainability, Richard Weller, to oversee what we're doing with it. But we'll be using it to minimize our impact on the environment and hopefully also create a better experience for fans.
Now, it's funny that we stay in the hospitality sector because part of the announcement, the other day was about the new hospitality facilities. Can we just go into that a little bit as well? Because I'm very excited about that. I've been to Kingsholm numerous times on business events and award ceremonies, and now we're looking at an event area of that you could see 500 people rather than the 250, 300.
Yeah, that's right. It's one of the great things about taking over the warehouse on the Kingsholm Business Park is that we will use a large part of it for the training facility, and that will be a world-class facility. But because the warehouse is so big, it leaves us around 1,000 square meters for a new hospitality area, and we're very conscious that we have some great facilities at Kingsholm already, but we don't have anything of that size. And in fact, there's not very many venues in Gloucester of that kind of size. So we think that it can be great for match days. We think it can be an additional area that I think fans will appreciate. But also the wider community will be able to use it on non-match days, whether it's showing games on TV or small concerts or small theatre productions or whatever else it might be. We can use it for the benefit of everybody.
Just very quickly, before I move in on about your own background, that's okay. It must be very difficult as the chief executive to work out, trying to run the Kingsholm side of the business to the playing side of the business in order to match it, to win. On the financial side, how do you make that decision? How do you make a decision to say, right, we're going to pay X amount, but it's going to take it off the bottom line here?
Well, it's that bit's actually relatively easy because we have a very clear objective as an organisation, and that's to win things. So it's if we want to win things, we have to have the best squad that we can have. We have to have the best pitch that we can have. We have to have the best training facilities that we can have. So there's a salary cap in Premiership Rugby. We spend up to the salary cap. And we've got an ongoing plan of what the squad's going to look like over the next few years, and our consistent plan is that we do spend up to that salary cap, and we know what we know what we need to pay for players in each position. So we've got a plan that includes all that, and the sum of it all adds up to the salary cap. So the next challenge then is to make sure that as a club we generate enough revenue to be able to pay for that. And again, that's in normal times that's fairly manageable. We've done a 5-year plan where we can do that as long as we sell the right number of season tickets and the right amount of hospitality. We're very dependent on fans and hugely grateful to fans for their support over the last 12 months, but ongoing. And as long as we get that, we can put together a business case that works for us, and that we can have a squad that we spend up to salary cap. The actual composition of that squad, I'm pleased to say, I have absolutely nothing to do with. That's left to George, and he talks to Alex, who does the recruitment, and my input to that is making sure that it's within the budget. So it's a pretty good team that we've got. We all work pretty closely together. George understands what we're trying to do across the whole organisation. I completely understand that he's come here to win things, same as I have. So we're all on the same hymn sheet there, and it's working quite well.
One of the most difficult decisions or conversations you must have had was with the sponsors. You got some very big local sponsors. They sponsored the stands, they've sponsored the boards. There's no games, there's no TV, there's no fans. What did you do about that, Lance? How did you go back to these companies who are, at the end of the day, they do it because they love the club, but they do it for exposure and promotion, and suddenly they don't have it anymore?
No, and I have to say, our sponsors have been absolutely amazing. We've had, of all the sponsors that we've got, I think there's only one that's not been able to fully support us. You know, everybody else, the vast majority of sponsors, have continued to pay the fees, and we're so grateful for that. That would have been a huge problem for us. What we tried to do for them is that, you know, once we started playing again, albeit there were no crowds, in some ways it was better because BT showed every game live on TV, which they don't normally do. And we put up some banners across the shed where people would normally have been standing, promoting our biggest sponsors. And we did quite a lot of social media work to keep fans engaged. And we credited the sponsors with that as much as we can. So we tried to provide at least as much value as would have been the case to start with. And, you know, the people that we work with, the businesses that we work with really have been amazing. And, you know, pretty much everybody has understood that, you know, this is a long-term relationship. They want us to be successful. We want them to be successful. And we've worked together through this difficult time. So it's actually, it's been a really good year with us and our sponsors, and we're hoping we can pay them back in spades in the years to come.
It's funny, the reason I asked that, because we've been the same with Punchline. We rely on the advertisers, we rely on people promoting themselves, and our clients have stayed with us as well. And you know, we're very, very grateful for that too. So I know where you're coming from, but that's great. Just about yourself, really. How long have you been at the club now, Lance?
I've been here for 20 months now. So I started in September 19 as chief exec, although I was a non-executive director for 18 months before that.
Where are you actually from originally? You're not from Gloucester, are you? Or from
I'm
Gloucester?
not from Gloucester. No, Gloucester. When I was growing up, Gloucester was in the far north, because I'm from Plymouth originally. So still in the West Country, but quite a long way further down. I left Plymouth when I went to university, and actually never moved back. So, but I've worked in Gloucestershire for a long time. I worked for Mitsubishi for 19 years before I came over to Gloucester Rugby. So I know the county a fair amount.
So what did you study at university then? Did you always want to get into sort of sports management, or how did that progress?
Not particularly, no. I actually did mechanical engineering at Salford University, and I worked for an I was sponsored by an engineering company through university. But when I left university, I decided I wanted to go into sales and marketing. And I thought that if I'm going to sell and market something, it should be something that I really enjoy. So I applied to 3 car companies and a brewery. And I was offered a place on the Ford graduate scheme, which was a fantastic place to learn your trade. So stayed with Ford for 12 years, thoroughly enjoyed that, traveled the world, you know, met some amazing people. And then in 2000, I was approached to move to Mitsubishi, based in Cirencester. And I went there, first of all, a general sales manager job to start with, but quite quickly the sales and marketing director role. And then in 2009, the managing director role there, where I stayed for another 9 years and thoroughly enjoyed it. Met some amazing people. Used to go to Japan about every 3 months, and just some fabulous experiences.
I mean, you must have been, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but obviously Mitsubishi's gone now. How do you feel about that? And why did it all go wrong?
Yeah, well, I feel very sad about it, because we had a lovely, it was a lovely business full of absolutely fantastic people, and we achieved some really amazing things. You know, we were the first company in the UK to launch a commercially successful electric car. And, you know, Mitsubishi is not a huge company, and we know for a fact that we completely blindsided some of the bigger brands in the UK, and changed the way that electric vehicles had to be marketed. And that was a great achievement for everybody involved in that, from, as I say, a relatively small company. The decision was made to withdraw from the European markets and the US market after I'd left the company, so I don't know the details of it. But yeah, I think it's incredibly sad, because there's a lot of very good people worked there. There was a lot of great customers that I met whilst I was there. And obviously they were the main sponsor of Gloucester Rugby as well, a deal that I was obviously involved in. And that was all working quite well. So yeah, my overwhelming feeling is sadness that they're moving away.
If you don't mind me asking, did the fact that you helped get the sponsorship for Gloucester Rugby and you had that tie-in, did it help you get your foot in the door there to land the role you've got now?
Well, it did in that Mitsubishi started sponsoring Gloucester, I don't know, 12 or 15 years ago. So as a kind of a second tier kind of sponsor, and so my relationship with the club started back there. And when you're a sponsor, you obviously have a certain level of involvement. Not into the details, but just you get access to whoever the MD might be and whatever whatever's going on at the club. As we progressed and became the main partner, obviously that relationship strengthened, and I got to know people more and more. And when I left the Mitsubishi, or announced that I was leaving Mitsubishi, Martin St. Quintin, the chairman, said to me, would you be interested in becoming a non-exec of the club, because you've been a good supporter of the club. I've run a fairly competitive business for quite a long time, and would you like to join the board as a non-exec? So I did, and that's where that appointment came from. And then when Steve Vaughan moved on, Martin invited me to take over as chief exec.
So whereabouts do you live now then?
Well, I worked in Mitsubishi in Cirencester for nearly 20 years and lived most of that time or half the time in Oxfordshire, and the rest of the time when I got remarried over in Berkshire, where my stepdaughter was at school. So she's now left and gone to university. So we've just recently moved near to Rencombe. So we've finally moved into Gloucestershire just before Christmas last year.
All right, great stuff. You'll be getting the accent soon.
Yeah, well, it's, as you know, it's a fantastic county, and there's some amazing scenery, and I've wanted to move for a while. Brexit and then the lockdown made that a bit more lengthy process than I'd wanted. But yeah, we've been over here 6 months now.
It's funny how Gloucester gets under your skin. I'm not from Gloucester. My family's from Merthyr Tydfil originally, and traveled the world with the Royal Air Force. And I came here and I just loved it. I love the people. Is that the same for you? What does Gloucester mean to you personally?
It does. I'm hugely proud to be running an organisation that's one of the biggest in Gloucester, and I think the city of Gloucester has a lot to be very proud of. I think there's a huge amount of development work going on in the city that's really going to be, some of the regeneration projects that are going on are really quite spectacular. Clearly we've already got the quays, and there's redevelopment happening in the city centre. We hope that our redevelopment of the warehouse next door will add to that. And I think there's a lot for people of Gloucester to be extremely proud of. We're also very conscious that a lot of our fan base is from Gloucestershire, not necessarily from Gloucester. And again, it's such a beautiful county that it's. I look at some of the other sporting clubs and places that you could live, and really count my lucky stars.
No, it's good because it's funny, isn't it? Because Gloucestonians, they sometimes run down the city, and I always think that's a bit of a shame. But one of the things that we've always been very proud of is the actual Gloucester Rugby Club, and I think if it plays well, the city feels better for it.
I think that's true, and I and we feel that's a weight of responsibility on us that we relish, and if we can bring more pride to the city, then that's we consider that to be part of our role. We know that people feel better if we've won on a Saturday afternoon than if we've lost, and that's a significant part in what we do and in our thinking.
Do you ever go home and go, oh God, that was just so bad?
Well, after a defeat? Yeah. I'm not very good company for about a week if we lose. So it's yeah, it's I don't want to talk to anybody about it, and I, as I say, not terribly good company. But when we win, I come home and watch the game again, and my wife will say, "But you've just been there. Why do you need to see it again?" But I always do at least 2 or 3 times. So yeah, I think it affects us all.
I think so. If you're a rugby fan, you're a rugby fan through and through, isn't it? Very different to football. Just very quickly, because we're running out of time, unfortunately, lads. You personally, what kind of books do you read? What is the book that you're reading right now? Is there not?
Is it interesting that you should say that? Actually, I've literally just last night finished reading a retelling of Reynard the Fox, the ancient tale of the fox, and he reminds me somewhat of my dog who disturbed us so much earlier in the in the interview. My apologies, but mostly I read autobiographies. I like reading autobiographies, especially of people who've been involved with rugby, and because there's always something that you can learn and something that you can pick up and something that you think, oh, that isn't just interesting, but actually we could either use that or we could adapt that for something that we could do. So I love reading. I don't get as much time for it as I would like, so I'm quite picky with what I read. So it's usually rugby autobiographies.
It's funny, isn't it? When you're a leader, you never stop learning. I don't think you can ever stop learning, no matter what you do.
And it's important that you don't. It's anybody who thinks that they know what there is to know, I think they've got that wrong. It's when I left Mitsubishi, and I was offered other jobs in the car business, but one of the things I particularly wanted to do was something different, because I wanted to have to learn different things. And although running an organization is pretty similar, whatever the organization is, I did want to force myself to out of my comfort zone and to keep learning. No, I agree, it's incredibly important.
Okay, last 4 questions, very, very quickly. What is the last LP that you bought?
Actual LP or download?
Yeah, or well, LP or download, I don't mind.
Right. Wow. What was the last download? It's so easy to do it now, isn't it? It was, gosh, it was probably the new Texas one that came out a couple of weeks ago. We actually had Texas at one of the last Mitsubishi gala dinners that I went to, and we ended up having quite a good time with them. So I've kind of followed them for a little while. So yeah, probably the last Texas one.
I saw that as well. It did look really good. Is it a good album?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, it is. It's good. Yeah.
So the very last question then, sir, is what's your top 3 business tips, please?
Um, well, the first thing that I've always done is be honest with people, because if and instill in the people working with you to be honest too. If there's a problem, at some point, as the boss, I am going to find out about it. So if you tell me as soon as you know about it, then there's at least two of us trying to fix it. If you wait and hope that I don't notice, and I don't notice it for a month, that's a whole month when the two of us could have been working on it, but we weren't. So that must make it more difficult to fix. And nobody gets fired for making a mistake. So, be truthful, and be truthful to your business partners and your suppliers, because if you tell them the truth, then they know what's going on, and they can maybe like it or maybe not like it, but at least you've always been honest with them. A great tip that I was given when in my first management job was the great tip for this great mystique about how you lead people and how you manage people. And somebody said to me, "How would you like to be managed?" And before I could answer, he said, "Do that." And I think that's the best advice. How would you like to be treated? We'll do that then, because that will probably work. And then the final thing I think I would say is that you can only face what's in front of you. So it's we've had an incredibly frustrating, challenging 15 months, and great uncertainty, and no income, and all of those things. But it is what it is. There's nothing you can do about that. I could worry about it or not worry about it. It wouldn't have made any difference at all. So you have to just accept what the cards that you've been dealt and make the most of them. And it's a cliche, but there's no such thing as a problem, only an opportunity. And that's the way that you have to look at it. That's what we did during COVID. And actually, that's why we've come out so much stronger than we went in.
That seems the perfect place to end it, because it is what it is. That's Bradley. Thanks ever so much for joining us today at Punchline Talks.
Thank you, Mark. My pleasure.